Hey guys, today I wanted to talk through my Back to University TBR, which is something I mentioned in my 2016 Goals and Resolutions video. Back to University was a project started by Sana from Books and Quills a couple of years ago, and the general idea is to read the books that you were assigned in school but either didn't get around to or just actively avoided reading. In my case, I was a bit of a goody two-shoes in school and read pretty much everything I was assigned, but I did want to get 12 books so that I would be reading one book a month, and so what I'm doing is putting a little bit of a spin on the project. I will be reading books that I either didn't finish or didn't read at all when I was in school, or books that I read and didn't like in the slightest. And that's it. Those are the very basic rules I'm setting for myself, but let's go ahead and get into the books because I have quite a few to talk about here. Most of these I'm going to be reading in completely random order based on how I draw them out of my book jar here, but I have assigned one in particular to January, and that is Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I read this for the first time as a senior in high school and absolutely hated it. I felt like it was super predictable, and I was really annoyed that I had to read the entire 817 pages, given that I predicted what was going to happen about 100 pages in. However, since then, my reading taste has definitely broadened. I've read quite a bit more, and I really want to give this a second chance, mainly because I've heard so many people since then tell me they really enjoyed the book, and I know Vanessa from Jaboski just named this as one of her top books of 2015, so hopefully I will like it more the second time around. As of filming this, I have just started reading yesterday, and I am about 23 pages in, so I have quite a few pages to go. Wish me luck, guys. As for the rest of these books, I have broken them up into two piles, books I first read in high school and books I first read in college, and we're going to start off with high school ones because chronologically that makes more sense. The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I read this going into my very first year of high school for a summer school course and absolutely detested it. I remember thinking it was amazing he had managed to get an entire novel out of this dumb little story. I think I might like it better this time. I don't know. I've since read more Hemingway, and found stuff that I liked, so hopefully I like it better, but who knows. Next, I have Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. I read this as a junior in high school, and I don't remember disliking it necessarily, but I don't remember liking it, and I think that's because some of the content in here definitely was shocking to me. I think it was the first really explicit book I had ever read, definitely ever in a class setting, and I'm very intrigued to see what I think of this now. Then I have Power by Linda Hogan. This follows a teenage girl who is of Native American descent, who is basically torn between her more westernized mother and her more traditional grandmother, and I distinctly remember not liking this at the time I first read it. However, since then I've become really interested in kind of multicultural stories, and especially kind of liminal characters, people who exist on a border between one identity and another, and I actually did my undergraduate thesis on that, so I'm assuming I will like this a lot more. I should probably stop saying that. I'm hoping I like all of these a lot more than the first time I read them. One that might be surprising to you guys is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. This is possibly the only book I was assigned in high school that I did not finish. I think this one might have actually been the victim of a book hangover because we had just finished reading As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, which I absolutely loved. For some reason, that book totally appeals to me, and this one just, it paled in comparison, and I just wasn't having it. The last book on my TBR from high school will definitely surprise you guys, and that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, I definitely didn't hate it, but I didn't really see what all the fuss was about. Again, probably the victim of a book hangover. We had just read Moby Dick, and I think in comparison, this one just seemed too simple to be as epic. Moving on to the books that I first read in college and would like to reread through this project, I have Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. This one follows a man who lives next door to a poet, and when the poet dies, this man basically takes it upon himself to analyze the poet's last poem. But what he ends up doing is basically just using the poem as a device through which he talks about his own life. So if you've read Tristram Shandy, it's kind of along those lines where it's very much digression within digression, and I absolutely detested this when I read it. It's not my kind of book at all, but you know, if I don't like it this time around, I'll just get rid of it. I then have another Toni Morrison book on this list, and that is A Mercy, and this one is set during the 1600s in the Americas during, you know, the the time of the slave trade, and it follows I believe a cast of characters that kind of lives on the margins of society. I'm not sure why, but I really don't find Toni Morrison's writing as fantastic as everybody else seems to think it is, and I'm not sure if that's just because I've never given her a proper chance, or if that's just because personally her writing's not to my taste. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that I can kind of draw a more definitive conclusion after rereading this one. Then I'm pretty sure no required reading list would be complete without some Shakespeare, so I have The Tempest by William Shakespeare. I know I read this for a theory course my first year of college, but I honestly don't remember a thing about this other than I believe it's set on an island. So essentially, I will be reading this one for the very first time. I then have a collection of short stories, which is Battleborn by Claire Vaye Watkins. She recently had her first novel came out, and I know it's been getting kind of mixed reviews, so I definitely want to read this and then see if I want to go on and pick up her novel. I did actually finish my assigned reading in this collection, but we didn't finish the thing as a whole, so I will be just reading it as a whole right now. But from what I remember, all of these stories are set in the American West, particularly in Las Vegas, and I just remember them feeling kind of too similar to each other, so we'll have to see what I think this time around. Then we have one that I'm unfortunately gonna have to read in this massive Norton English literature anthology, and that is The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. I was supposed to read The Fairy Queen for a course I took on Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, so it will be kind of a hassle to read out of this massive anthology, but I'm not going to go pick up a separate copy of a book I'm not sure I enjoy yet, so I will be reading it out of that one. And lastly, we have here Operation Shylock, A Confession by Philip Roth. Now this one I have not read at all, and that's mainly because it was on the end of our syllabus for one of my courses and we just ran out of time and dropped it. So I know nothing about this. This could be a terrible mistake that I'm finally picking it up, but I have had this on my shelf unread since junior year of college, and I think it's time to get to it. So those are the books on my Back to University TBR, and no, I am not going to attempt to hold them up because it was hard enough to get a thumbnail picture, so if you want to see way too many books in my arms, refer to that. Some of them could be quite painful, if I'm completely honest. We'll see. I'm not opposed to DNFing a book if I really am not getting along with it, but I am a huge rereader. I actually have found some of my favorite books through rereading them, so hopefully this project will go really well, and hopefully I will knock down this entire TBR. We'll see. This is probably the most ambitious reading project I've ever set for myself. But that is all I have for the video, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!